Our family's story starts with our dad being a fisherman and a fish peddler in a small town in Sicily called Aspra, outside of Palermo. Our mom was born up in northern Italy, San Benedetto del Tronto in La Marche. And they immigrated to the United States after World War II. They met here in San Diego. They were married at Our Lady of the Rosary Church here in Little Italy. We're a family of 5 children, and our parents always emphasized our family togetherness.
My mom's from the market, like Benny said earlier. Very different language, especially a dialect that we didn't really speak. My dad kind of said, "We're Sicilian. We speak Sicilian." My mom learned the language. It was very interesting or very rare that a Sicilian would marry someone from the Marche. And they met at Bayside, and I'm pretty sure that's the story.
It was an English class.
Yeah, learning English,
Yeah.
which is right by Washington School, right by the church. Yeah, let's talk about Dad. What a fiery personality,
I know
put it that
we
way.
did a lot of work here, but if it wasn't for him, that guy, he was a real go-getter. I mean, he came to this country, and they were fishermen back there, and they came to this country to have a better life. And I think our family, and I'm sure our family, and even our cousins and Brunettos, all did very well here in San Diego. A lot of them were tuna fishermen and captains of tuna boats, and everybody seemed to do okay. But it took a long time to get it to this point where it is today.
He was going back and forth with my uncle as partner because they couldn't afford supporting 2 families with that one business. So after that, my dad wanted to get in the restaurant business again, and he started a restaurant right down the street from here at the corner of Washington and India Street called La Gondola.
My dad took a big risk when we purchased this business in Little Italy because we were in the restaurant business, and this location has a restaurant and a store next door. And my dad had 5 children, and he actually put his house up as collateral to buy this business. When people ask you, would I be willing to take that chance knowing that I had 5 kids and going into a new business that I really didn't know about? And that was a big risk for my dad. So I think that that's one thing that I really, really respect him for, that he took that chance. He couldn't speak English, so he had a waitress that spoke English and Italian, and he would tell her to tell the salesman what he wanted to order, because the salesman was an American guy, so he couldn't even speak to salesman and order stuff without help from other people. So taking a chance and opening up a business when you can't speak the language, that takes a lot of guts.
And the way Little Italy was before, it wasn't a very nice area back then. When we started in 1973, it was more like the freeway came through in 62, Highway 5, and took 2/3 of Little Italy. And so we were there the whole way, And now with the redevelopment that's been done, I mean, I've always said it to myself, I kept walking down this street, Hawthorne Street, every day, coming to work and looking down at that beautiful bay. And then you turn to the left and you see the skyscrapers downtown. But back in the 50s, it was Little Italy where everybody knew each other. And they didn't even lock doors or anything like that because it was a real Italian community. Until the freeway came through in 1962.
Now, when we came down here, the deli business was new to us, so it was something that we sort of had to learn on the fly. My brother Dominic was here. I was still up in LA Gardens working in the restaurant up in LA Gardens. My brother John was out tuna fishing, then came back and started working with us here. So finally my dad said, you know what, why don't we get all you boys together here and work in Little Italy. So all 4 of us, we had my cousin Mike at the time that was a partner, and the 4 of us started working the business.
And just wanted to say my Uncle Jasper, Mike, all 6 of us were partners. We had to pull our money together, and my dad had to put the house on the line. And I'll never forget when my dad was negotiating with Frank Greco, and he's saying, "Frank, I don't have the money for the inventory. What are we going to do?" He said, "Don't worry, Stefano. Phil will train your sons to work the deli, and while you're working, you could pay off the inventory." So that was really a shoestring moment for us to actually purchase the business.
Our suppliers were extending us credit beyond what the credit what the credit limit was, and plus beyond the 30 days. And I think that we were very fortunate that everybody gave us a shot. And at that time, there's only really 3 or 4 businesses on India Street. There was us, Filippi's, Salunto Baking Company, and maybe one other Italian restaurant. So the area wasn't really that attractive at the time. But luckily, through time, the redevelopment of Little Italy really started bringing us over the top.
I'll never forget when we first purchased it, and I was 17 years old, and I was walking down Hawthorne Street, and I said, "What am I going to do? How am I going to try to run this business with all of us involved?" But we ended up doing really well. You know, they trained us, and they were patient with us, the previous sellers, Frank and Leon. Dad, he was the face of the business, just moving, hustling. And my Uncle Jasper was totally the opposite. He was like very quiet, didn't say anything. He said, "Oh, okay, Stefano, okay." But it was a great partnership. My cousin Mike and my Uncle Jasper. And
when we took over the deli, this was still an Italian neighborhood, and let's say nowadays maybe only 10% of our business is Italian clientele, but when we took over, I'd say at least 90% of our business was Italian clientele. People that knew your family, knew your grandparents, knew your parents. And there was a special pressure when it came to that, because we didn't want to make mistakes. We wanted to always be honest, and we always wanted to run a good business, because it didn't just reflect on us, it reflected on our family, even into our grandparents. And the nice part about it was we all knew each other. We knew all the families and stuff. And the one thing was that I remember I was really shy when I was younger. But then when you came to work here behind the deli, you were forced to speak to people. And believe it or not, we were speaking Sicilian behind the deli. And that forced me to start speaking Sicilian, and brought me back and basically taught me how to speak Sicilian again. But it forced me to open up and really start speaking to people, which really helped me later on in life. I would always tell people that I hired behind the deli, look, if you're shy, you're not going to be shy by the time you leave this job, because you're going to be speaking to people all day long.
Back then, like my brother Benny said, it was 90% were Sicilians that would come in, and as a matter of fact, we were all born here in San Diego, and we learned English in elementary school over here in Washington. Elementary in Little Italy, that's where we learned English, but we spoke Sicilian at home the whole time, and it was great because now with our business that we had, and we were dealing with Sicilian people, and we knew them too, obviously, we could converse and communicate with everybody, which I think really helped us out a lot too in this business here.
And then my sister, I like to mention my sisters too, when we started off, and my cousin Dorothy and Marianne too, and Emma, my sister, and Dorothy, and they helped work the lunch line here. And my dad was just really happy that they were working with us too. It was a true family business, and we wouldn't have made it without everybody involved.
Our brothers were really involved from a very young age working in the restaurant, and we always helped Mom out at home. So we helped with housework. On Saturdays, we used to help clean the house. And then for the restaurant, the thing that Dad used to have us do was fill out the deposit slips for the checks, because people used to pay by check a lot then, which is kind of unheard of now. And he would end up with a lot of checks to deposit, and I guess it was kind of, it was something that he got us to do, and we felt like we were doing an important job.
We were participating.
Yeah. And then he would pay us a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I always thought it was fun. I felt like, I was doing something adult.
Right.
And we would just do it in our kitchen at home. And it was just a fun, like living in a small town in a way. We
Exactly.
knew all of our neighbors, you know, a lot of Italian Americans on our street, even though it wasn't like in Little Italy, it was still, you know, part of the community. And then Mom she was very typical Italian American homemaker, and just did all the cooking and, you know, kept the home nice, and she never worked in the restaurant.
No, but she had her work cut out for her with the 3 boys in the beginning. Dad went fishing, and she was left with the 3, and she didn't drive, and it was tough for her.
Yeah.
It was really tough. But she made it work because she had a couple stores she could walk to get a few groceries here and there. But it was hard for her in the beginning when my dad left, and 3 boys that were like 1 year apart, all 3 of them. Yeah.
And then my dad always used to give my mom a lot of credit, because he would say, you know, she like made our home. Because she was a real saver.
Right.
And he says that's how he got ahead in life, was because of how she was.
He would leave her money when he went fishing, and he'd say, wait, all the money's still here. How did you do that? And she would find a way somehow to save.
Yeah, she would say, oh, I ate at your dad's house or your parents' house. I went to my dad's house to eat. And so she was really a big part in getting ahead.
Yes.
We both started working in the cafeteria, well, an express lunch line is what it was.
Making setups. And setups is all the meats for the torpedo sandwiches in the restaurant. And we'd come early to start that. I remember we opened at 11 at the restaurant, and we would be here by 8:30 because we had to start slicing the meat for these setups. And the tuna boats, when they were in San Diego from wherever they came from fishing, they would order food from here. Sometimes pizzas, but when they'd order sandwiches, it was like all hands on deck in the kitchen. Everybody would help. Even people from the deli would sometimes come over and help us make these sandwiches, and we're talking like 50. It was an insane amount. I can't remember exactly how much, but the orders were tremendous. And the pizzas, when they'd order pizza, they'd be like 30 at a time, and different types. And the kitchen would just be going, and it gets so hot back there, and the more people helping, the hotter it would be too. But that's another thing about the restaurant, just how busy we always were. Every minute here was busy.
By the time we came around, our family was, not as, the financial situation was better, but
Correct. In the beginning, it was hard for our brothers because that was tough, getting it up and running to a place where our parents were comfortable. The family was comfortable.
it was just a real good environment. And I think Mona Lisa and the grocery store meant a lot to a lot of people in our neighborhood because they were getting the products that they wanted from Italy. And being able to cook the food the way they, the way they like to with the ingredients from here.
The other thing I like to say, getting back to my dad, that's what this is for. He loved this table, right here, table 14. Every day, sitting where you're sitting, John, right? Absolutely. Right over here. And, like John said, we went through a lot of hurdles. We saw Little Italy come from nowhere to what it is today. we're really thankful to be here, and that we have 3 of our children that are still operating, and we're moving on to our 3rd generation, and we're very proud of them.
I think that the one thing that I'm speaking from the Sicilian side of the family, our parents really emphasized to us that family was very important and to stick together. And I think that we did, and I think that carried on to our family. We would go to my father's house on Sundays and have pasta and stuff every Sunday. And I think that our children grew up and they have that closeness as cousins today. And like we've said, we have 3 of them working here together, and it looks like that they've been doing a very good job working for us and managing Mona Lisa.
Dad was pretty young when he had me, so we would basically, the Mona Lisa was my babysitter, and so we had, quite a few, lovely waitresses, and I'd usually be hanging out with them. And as I got older, we started off as a dishwasher at age 12, and would do that a lot. And because I would be with my dad, and there was nobody to watch me, so a lot of times your hands would just get mauled up from washing dishes. After that, moved over to the deli, where I was slicing deli meat from about 95 to 2002, about 3 to 4 days a week, and and then eventually switched over to the register. So after I got done with college, I told my dad, I said, look, I want to maybe take a year off and relax after all that hard work. He said, oh no. He goes, me and my brothers, it's our time to relax. You're getting straight to work after college. I said, oh, okay. So that's when I, in 2003, started, managing the restaurant.
I think I started at the register. I was probably about 16 years old. And I remember 16 distinctively because my dad said, okay, you got your car? I'm not giving you any gas money. So if you want gas money, you got to start working. So I started 16 at the register. Did that for a couple years. I ended up moving behind the deli. I did that throughout college. And then my last 2 years of college, I actually transferred out to UNLV. So I stopped working, graduated in 2010, I think. And then I probably got back here 2010, 2011, and really started, more of the professional aspect of the work as far as management goes, and accounting, a little bit of ordering, things like that.
I just remember growing up, always at school, having those take your kids to work day. Did you guys have that?
Oh yeah.
And coming here with Dad, and I thought I was so cool. I thought I was getting paid by the business, and he was just paying me out of his pocket.
At least you got paid.
I'm not really on the payroll. But to be honest, I really had no idea that I would end up working here full time after school. I was studying business in college, and I knew I wanted to be in the hospitality industry, but I thought maybe I would go into hotels or something, and I wasn't really sure. And I was having some conversations with my dad, and I remember I was texting you at the end of my senior year, and I was like, you know what? We have this amazing family business centered around hospitality right in the middle of Little Italy. What better thing than to learn everything I need to know here with my family?
Thank God it was our grandfather and our grandmother that really, they were really focused on keeping the family together, rely on your family, stick together. And I think it's paying dividends in our life now because, we're still really close.
Oh, yeah.
I think maybe it trickles from the outside. Obviously we're a very close family. We've always been a close family growing up. I remember going to Nanu's house, every Sunday, and we kept that same mentality going into work. And I think a lot of our employees felt that because a lot of our employees are basically family members. We've had people here 5 years, 10 years, 20, 25 years. So I think that's a really important aspect that kind of separates ourselves from every other business.
As we move forward into, now we're 3rd generation, hopefully there'll be more generations. One of the biggest things we're seeing is technology. For me, kind of something that I've really enjoyed is our presence on social media. Nowadays, we're so lucky that we can reach such a mass of people with one click of a post. It's amazing to see, and even hearing stories. I've heard so many stories of people saying, I live in Boston and I saw Mona Lisa on this video or something, and that's why we're here. So it's really remarkable and really great.
With my dad, being a founding member of the Little Italy Association, and bringing, the reassessment district, funds back into the neighborhood and doing, community improvements, and transforming this area. When we remodeled the restaurant, we made it look from, kind of like an 80s kind of theme, and we wanted to go back to the 50s. And so, and that's, the kind of improvements we want to look, because when we look, when we manage our family's business, we look at this not only as, as a restaurant, as a, grocery store, deli, but we look at it as a museum. And people, when they come here, they want to come here, they're looking at history. And so we want to preserve that history, but also at the same time provide a good quality product.
Yeah. I have a picture in my mind, and my dad was flipping pizzas in front of the window.
He was very much about giving generous portions. So we used to cut the lasagna in the line, and sometimes the pieces were just a little bit smaller, and he always wanted us to give that extra little piece so that people felt like they were getting a good value for their money, and that they just felt satisfied, and so he was really just such a huge part of the fabric of this business.
And he was here almost every day.
Yeah.
And he'd sit at his table. Now I'm going to get emotional again. Yeah. And he'd have his wine in a coffee cup.
Yeah. He would camouflage his wine.
Yes.
In coffee.
And his whiskey.
Yeah.
Sometimes he'd pour the whiskey in the coffee, and he'd say, "This is un café corretto."
I think that the one thing that we're most proud of is that our family, my two brothers and I, my sisters, we grew up in Little Italy. We're one of the only locally owned businesses in Little Italy. When this resurgence started, a lot of people came from outside of San Diego, and a lot of immigrants from Italy and stuff. God bless them, they really started coming to Little Italy, and they really improved what we have in Little Italy. But I'm really proud of the fact that we grew up in this neighborhood. We went to Washington School. We were born in San Diego, baptized at Our Lady of the Rosary, communion, confirmation. We were married there, and our funerals are going to be at Our Lady of the Rosary. So I'm very, very proud that our family was able to establish a business here. We bought our property, so we're not going anywhere. And to be able to, so far, we're going on our 50th year, and it looks like our family legacy is going to continue with our children. So that's something that I really want to emphasize, that we're really proud of. And it's great to be part of the community, always been part of the community. So I think that my dad started this legacy, and we've carried it on, and I think that our children are going to carry it beyond our point. To our mom and dad. Cheers to our mom and dad. Salute. Salute.
Cheers.
Stefano and Renata.
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers.
The next 50 years.
Next 50 years.
Cent'anni.
Mona Lisa.
Con estate tutto l'anno e all'improvviso eccola qua.